And thanks everyone for joining the Search Ads session for the year-end workshop. I'm really excited to talk about both Google and Microsoft today. And again, just as a reminder, my name is Emily. I'm the digital supervisor of search at Community Boost. I'm basically just a Google Ads nerd, and I love the Google Ad Grant, especially because it just helps nonprofits really further their mission within Google Ads. So before we get started, want to do a quick poll here. Just wondering if you have a paid search account, an ad grant account, or both. So when I'm talking about a paid search account, that would be an account where you're spending your own real money on platforms you all are using. So I'll give everyone a second to answer the poll. Okay. So it looks like most of us just have the Google Ad Grant. That's awesome. I will be covering all of these things in this session, so it's pretty jam-packed. Okay. Awesome. Thank you everyone for answering. We do have a little bit of a mix of everything, which is good to see. Okay, great. Thanks everyone. So getting into the agenda. So first we're going to talk about how to apply for the Google Ad Grant. And then we're going to get into the Microsoft Ad Grant because I know that's pretty new and it's very exciting. And then we're going to talk about kind of the meat of the session, the year-end prep materials, as well as the actual strategies and tools that we can use for search ads during year-end. So first, just to cover how to apply for the Google Ad Grant in case any of you don't already have it. So this is the eligibility for the ad grant. It is a little bit different from what you might be thinking of when you hear the term grant. It's definitely a very familiar phrase in the nonprofit world, but it does run a little bit differently. When you're applying for the Google Ad Grant, you're not necessarily writing paragraphs on why you should get the ad grant. You won't have to wait for months to hear back. It's actually a pretty easy grant to apply for. So, in order to be eligible within the United States, you do have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. And then you can see on the right-hand side there, some organizations aren't eligible for the ad grant, including organizations working in the government, hospitals and healthcare, and then schools, academic institutions, or universities, and then fiscally sponsored organizations. So, in addition to just the status of your nonprofit, you do have to have what's called a high quality website in order to apply and get the ad grant. So, some things that you can do here to have a high quality website are first getting rid of broken links and 404 errors. So, if you have a developer, you can work with them on that. You just want to make sure that everything on your site is functioning properly. This is really just a good thing to do in general, even if you're not applying for the Google Ad Grant. And then you also want to secure your site with HTTPS. So you can also work with a developer on that as well, but definitely recommend getting those things squared away before applying. So the application process, again, it's not really a lot of written content. It's really just getting access to the proper platforms. So first, if you're starting, from the very beginning, you do want to create a TechSoup account. So TechSoup is what Google for Nonprofits uses to verify your charity status. It's really easy. You just create an account. You do have to submit your IRS determination letter, but you should hear back within about a week. And then after that, you will create a Google for Nonprofits account. So it's a little bit different than Google Ad Grants. Google for Nonprofits is just kind of the hub where you actually complete your application. So that's pretty much instantaneous, creating a Google for Nonprofits account. And then after that, you'll go into Google for Nonprofits and you'll complete an eligibility form. And again, this should take 20 minutes or less, maybe even less than 10 minutes. It's really just designed to give the Google Ad Grants team more information about the grantees that are in the program. So again, it won't have any bearing on whether you actually get the ad grant. It will just ask questions like, what's your marketing budget? Or are there certain times of year that you focus on marketing initiatives versus others? So again, you're really just giving more information about your nonprofit. So after you complete the eligibility form, you go back into Google for Nonprofits and then submit your activation for review. And then you should hear back within 3 business days. So again, really the trickiest part is getting access to all of the platforms, but from there, it's a very easy process. So if you are starting from the beginning, I do recommend that you use an email that is maybe a little bit more general, like an info@communityboost.org email. something that multiple people in your organization have access to, just in case, you want other people to help you along the process, or maybe you leave your nonprofit and then from there, some of your team members can kind of pick up where you started with an email that everyone can access. I've just seen that, be a little bit of a barrier for people in applying if they don't have the proper login. So that's just a little tip there. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the Microsoft Ad Grant, which is really exciting because this is fairly new. So it's a little bit different from the Google Ad Grant. It is $3,000 per month of ad spend eligible to use within Microsoft Ads. So we'll go into a little bit more of the similarities and differences in the next slide, but just noting here that there's no need for an additional paid account. So funds are applied directly to the same account. So you can have $3,000 off and you can just kind of keep it at that. Or you can additionally, if you want to spend over 3K, after that you can spend your own money in the same account. Or you can also run display ads within this account along with search ads. So similar to the Google Ad Grant, it is a tool that's used to grow awareness around your mission and your organization, also to attract new donors, volunteers, and really just, find brand advocates that are going to be enrolled with your mission. So here's a breakdown a little bit more of the similarities and differences. So probably the biggest one is that the Google Ad Grant is $10,000 a month of ad spend, whereas the Microsoft Ad Grant is $3,000 a month. But one of the bigger differences also is that you're probably going to have a higher impression share within Microsoft Ads, maybe up to 60% impression share. And when I'm talking about impression share, that just really means how often your ads show for how often they're eligible to show. So just because of some of the back-end differences in the two types of accounts, the Google Ad Grant is entered into a secondary auction after paid ads. So that's why the impression share might be a little bit lower. But overall, the average CPC and audiences might be a little bit different in Microsoft Ads. Microsoft tends to skew a little bit older, maybe a little higher income. The average CPC is a bit lower right now. It is going up a little bit, and we do expect it to probably be a little bit closer to Google Ads in the future. But this is a really good time to jump into Microsoft Ads. It's a space where not a lot of nonprofits are in, and so it's definitely an opportunity now to have ads that have a lower average cost per click, maybe a higher impression share. So we definitely recommend testing it out now before the space gets really inundated. And here there's also no policy restrictions, where with the Google Ad Grant, they just have a few quality rules around click-through rate or a $2 cost per click limit. So we don't have those same policy restrictions within Microsoft Ads. So yeah, those are just kind of some of the differences between Microsoft and Google. We definitely recommend still using both of them, just using the two different platforms and channels that are available to nonprofits, because they will have somewhat different audiences. They will have somewhat different advantages and disadvantages. So it's not necessarily one or the other. We definitely encourage you to try both. And the program requirements are very similar to Google. You have to be a 501c3 nonprofit in the US. You also have to have that high quality website. And you do have the same restrictions with some of those types of nonprofits. And then you just can't create ads for financial products such as mortgages, credit cards, and some of those larger donation items like cars, boats, or property donations. So a few little details there, but again, most 501c3 nonprofits are eligible and will get the Microsoft Ad Grant. And the application process is also fairly similar. First, you're going to complete a registration form, and you'll have access to this deck after the fact, so you'll be able to access these links. There's also information on Microsoft Ads website. But first, you're going to register through the form. And again, it's just about kind of Microsoft understanding your charity status and eligibility. So they also use TechSoup for this reason. So Microsoft will go through TechSoup and verify that you are a 501c3 nonprofit. And then after that, you should receive an email kind of with those results within 10 business days. And then after that, you will receive an email with a link to the Microsoft Nonprofit Hub. So that's kind of similar to Google for Nonprofits. And from there, you apply for the Microsoft Ad Grant. So again, very similar. It's really just about having access to the right forms and the right platforms. And then after that, a Microsoft Ads representative will schedule a meeting with you, and you will set up your Microsoft Ads Ad Grant account and just make sure you're all good to go with understanding, how things are built, and how to set up campaigns and ads and just kind of the ins and outs of the platform. So after that meeting is scheduled and you're all squared away, you'll have your Microsoft Ad Grants account. Okay, so now we're just going to get into the meat of kind of all of the year-end prep materials, strategies, and tools. I know this is really what you all have been waiting for. So this is a list of some things that you really want for a successful year-end with search ads, and these things can help just in general with your other marketing channels. So first you want to have images. Images can be used for extensions, both in Google Ads and in multimedia ads in Microsoft, and I'll be talking about those in a later slide. Next, you want some customer or supporter lists, if applicable. So these lists do have to be at least 1,000 people, and ideally they're at least 4,000 people to really work well. So I'll also be diving into this in the next slide. And then after that, you just want to be on the same page with your team members. You want to understand if you have a donation match or just any other year-end information. So that could be around a theme or the ad copy and messaging that you're using in emails or on your landing pages. You really do, if you have a year-end theme, want it to be really cohesive so that people are kind of seeing the same language within multiple touch points, because we know that they probably will have those multiple touch points, maybe receiving an email and then Googling your organization and then getting hit with a Facebook ad. So it's really important to just kind of have that language be similar across the board. And then, of course, if you have a match amount, you just want to be aware of that and be putting it in landing pages or ad copy as well. And then the next thing here is landing pages. So you always need a landing page in order to create an ad. You need somewhere to send traffic to. We do recommend, if you have time, to build out specific Giving Tuesday and year-end landing pages. We do recommend that. It's definitely not required, but it's just an added bonus. And it's important to just get your landing pages together now, because you do want to set up conversion tracking as soon as possible. You just want to make sure that by the time Giving Tuesday comes and by the time it's December, you know that donations are tracking properly and you understand, where those donations are coming from. Okay, so now that we kind of have that initial prep checklist, we're going to get into the tools and strategies that you can use in Google Ads in general, in Microsoft Ads, but specifically during year end. So first is Giving Tuesday campaigns. So this could work for both an ad grant and a paid account, which again, when I'm kind of talking about the differences between those, I'm typically talking about Google, where Google has a separate ad grant account, as well as you can have a paid account. So those would be two separate ones, where again, the difference there in Microsoft is that it's all rolled into one. So with Giving Tuesday campaigns, you really are typically probably creating these campaigns or ad groups if you do have a specific Giving Tuesday landing page, because at the end of the day, both Google and Microsoft are going to be looking at the keywords that you have in your account. So if you have keywords around Giving Tuesday, and you relate those keywords to an ad around donating for Giving Tuesday, that's all fine and well, but Google and Microsoft also typically look at the landing page that you're sending traffic to. And if there's nothing about Giving Tuesday on the landing page, then you're probably not going to get the traction that you want, because they're not understanding the correlation between the keyword and the ad as it relates to the ad copy on the landing page. So definitely recommend having a specific landing page if you want to go after those types of keywords. You can also insert that type of language on your normal donation landing page. So if that makes sense, you don't have to start from scratch and create a completely new landing page. And the difference here between the ad grant and a paid account is, in the ad grant, you have the ability to go after more generic terms because we're not using real money. So you can go after terms like, when is Giving Tuesday? You're kind of targeting people who are just at the beginning of that journey, who obviously know about Giving Tuesday, but don't have that intent in their search to immediately donate. So in a paid account, you do probably want to stick to those more conversion intent keywords, like charities to donate to for Giving Tuesday. That's someone who's ready to go. They just want to understand, which mission they best align with. And so that's kind of the type of person that you're wanting to spend real money on. And these campaigns are also a great opportunity to use customer match and remarketing audiences. So I'll go over that in a later slide, but just kind of keep that in mind. This is a really good tactic, because if you're targeting people with these campaigns that are around Giving Tuesday, if you're targeting people who are already part of some sort of list, like a donor list, volunteer list, email list, or they've already visited your website, that's a warmer audience, a warmer lead. And so you can probably go after more generic terms like best charities to donate to for Giving Tuesday, because if someone's already familiar with your organization, they're definitely more likely to donate. And this can also be a great opportunity to build remarketing audiences for other channels like Meta or display ads or YouTube ads. So even if you're using these keywords just to drive traffic to your site, that can be an added bonus as well. Okay, so the next tactic here is using a donation match ad copy. Obviously, this is only relevant if you do have a donation match, but you can use this in both an ad grant and a paid account. So if you are running a donation match, we do recommend that you use it in headlines and descriptions. And it is best probably used for ads that are for keywords that are around your branded organization name or donation keywords. So it's just best because donation keywords, people are already ready to give money. And then with branded keywords, they're already familiar with your organization. So it's a little bit more in context. So some example headlines could be double your donation, all gifts are matched, or donations matched until 12/31 or whenever your match ends. So this screenshot below here is from a client that we ran ads for that included donation match ad copy. So the first line of data are the ads that included the match language, and then the second line of data are the numbers that for the overall campaign and overall ads. So you can see that, it's still a small amount of spend that was attributed to those ads. So it's definitely not going to be exactly the same amount as the overall ads, but we still saw 61 donations from ads that had donation match ad copy in it. We can also see that the conversion rate is much higher at 13% compared to all of, the overall ads. We can also see that the cost per conversion is a lot lower at $36 compared to $94. The conversion value over cost is really your return on ad spend. So we saw about a 6 times return on ad spend with ads that had the match language compared to overall ads. And we also saw a lower bounce rate. So bounce rate is the rate at which people get to your site and immediately leave. So you do want a lower bounce rate. So overall, again, a little bit of a drop in the bucket in terms of the overall donation revenue, but definitely really successful in terms of the audience engagement and conversion rate and the actions that they took after clicking on those ads. Okay, moving on through here. So the next tool and strategy to use is customer match lists. This can also be used in both ad grant and paid accounts, although I will say it's probably an even better strategy to use in a paid account if you're running display or YouTube ads. But it can still be used for search. So when I'm talking about customer match lists, this is kind of like I referenced before, just that list of supporters, whether it's previous donors or volunteers or email subscribers, just a list of contacts that you have basically. And so you can upload that list into Google Ads, again, noting that it does have to be at least 1,000 people. And to really work well, it probably should be at least 4,000 people. So this works really well with display in YouTube because you can kind of push that message out to those supporters. It is a little bit different with search ads because users still have to make a search in order to trigger an ad. So they still have to type something into Google. But it works really well because they're probably more likely to convert. Kind of going back to the last slide, if you're going after more generic tangent keywords like best nonprofits to donate to, it's better to target someone who's already familiar with your organization because they're probably more likely to click on your ad and make a donation from there. So you can create campaigns that are specifically targeting these people. You can also create audiences based on users who have visited your site or maybe a page of your site. This is definitely still a good strategy, but we are getting a little bit more into the importance of using first-party data. If you've been following Community Boost at all, we've been talking about this a lot over the last year. With the introduction of the iOS 14 update, users are now allowed to opt out of tracking. So we kind of lose some of the data of where people are going and if they hit your site or not. So the people who opt out, we kind of just don't have that information of what they're doing online. So that really has introduced the importance of first party data. And first party data is just the information that a user is willingly giving you. So, like their name, their email, their personal address. So that's why these lists are so important, because you can remarket to those people because they've already given you that information willingly. So it's definitely just something that you'll continue to hear us talk about. And it's just really important. It has changed the landscape of digital marketing and kind of the mindset that we have of being able to remarket to people and track people through the entire steps of the funnel. Okay, so the next strategy here is using countdown ads. This can also work for both ad grant and paid accounts. With countdown ads, it dynamically changes your ad text to count down to a specific day. So this was kind of created in more of an e-commerce environment where, if you're a clothing brand that's running a Labor Day sale, you might have, 10% off for the weekend. And so that's kind of how it was born. But what we can use it for in the nonprofit context is, counting down to specific days like Giving Tuesday, or maybe the end of the year, December 31st. So you can see an example here. You can dynamically put 27 days until Giving Tuesday, and then each day that passes, it'll tick down to 26, 25, 24, and so on. And then you can insert, all your other normal headlines and descriptions, and it will appear in your ad like this. So in the place that you want this to appear, you just type a little brace into the ad copy, and then there's a drop-down menu where you can select countdown ads. So I know there's a lot of kind of tactical information in here. Again, you'll have access to this deck. And then as well, Google and Microsoft both have, really good resource articles if you're looking for more information on how to, exactly implement these strategies. Okay, so the next tool we're going to look at is image extensions. And this, isn't necessarily specific to your end. We definitely recommend using image extensions all year round. Image extensions are images that show alongside your text ads. So they're different from display ads, but they're just kind of an add-on to your text ad. So they only will show on the search engine results page. So you can see an example here on the top right. We have a cute little image that goes along with the St. Jude's ad, and it really just draws your eye to that advertisement, and it just makes it more likely that someone will click on the ad. So yeah, really recommend diving into the imagery that you have available in your organization. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a wrong way to start testing imagery. It kind of depends on the campaign that you are running. If you have a volunteer campaign, maybe using images from a previous volunteer event. If you have a donation campaign, maybe using images of, the people, places, or things that you support. So I definitely recommend using image extensions now and then just throughout the year. So kind of similarly in Microsoft ads, they do have a different ad format called a multimedia ad. So this is very, very similar to an image extension. It's also going to show just on the Microsoft search engine results page. So again, a little bit different from a display ad. But this just allows you to put an image on kind of the right-hand side of the search engine results page. And you can see in this example, it's really big. So that's even more of a reason to add these multimedia ads because they're very visually appealing. And so I noted here that only one ad will show, one multimedia ad will show at a time. So the user wouldn't be inundated with multiple images. So it's definitely an opportunity to make your ad stand out and more of a reason for someone to click on it. Okay, so I know I've been powering through this. We are going to have some time for Q&A at the end of the session, and then I'll also be in the lounge as well if we have any follow-up questions. So thanks everyone for sticking with this. We do have just one more strategy to go over here. This is for seasonality adjustments. So I do recommend for this strategy that you only use it in a paid account. We just haven't seen a lot of success in an ad grant with this strategy, but it works pretty well for a paid account. So a seasonality adjustment is a tool that can be used to inform smart bidding of expected changes in conversion rates. So this also kind of goes back to the e-commerce example where if someone is having a sale, like a Labor Day sale, they can kind of advertise, or they can tell Google that there will probably be an increase in conversion rate. So it's typically for a shorter amount of time. I know with the nonprofits, all of December is kind of an increase in conversion rate, so it can probably be a little bit difficult to choose that time frame. But I would recommend, around Giving Tuesday, maybe even for that whole week, you can probably extend it to 5 or 7 days. And then maybe the last few days of the year plus January 1st, because we do see a lot of donations come in the first few days of January. You're just kind of giving Google a little nudge saying, hey, we're probably going to see higher conversion rates here. It can just help the algorithm understand what's going to happen. It can help Google manage the budget a little bit better. And so it's just a good idea to kind of help along with smart bidding, since smart bidding is just such a pivotal tool that we use throughout the year. So again, I have some instructions right here. Again, you'll get access to this slide, and then Google also has really helpful resource articles where you can kind of follow along and implement a seasonality adjustment in your account, while following the instructions. So definitely recommend trying this again, maybe for Giving Tuesday and the end of the year. Okay, that is the end of our session. I know that was kind of jam-packed with information and jargon and tools. So again, we'll have time for more questions after this, but also if you're looking to just talk about how you can really maximize these tools and these strategies and your ad grant account, maybe also a paid account and a Microsoft account, if you're looking to leverage that for your end, book a one-on-one search ads review, with the experts here at Community Boost. We're really excited to talk about, how you can improve your results for November and December. I know we're already in November, but it's not too late, obviously, to get started and really make an impactful year end. But I do recommend just starting as soon as possible so that you can be really set up for success by Giving Tuesday and especially by December. So go ahead and book that strategy session to just talk more about your search accounts. Okay. So yeah, I think we have maybe a few minutes of Q&A available. Candace, I don't know if we want to go straight to the lounge or maybe answer a few questions here.
Hey, thanks so much, Emily. This was so great. There's already like so much engagement in the chat. Um, uh, Charles C. Said this was a super helpful session. Thank you. And yeah, Frank asked if a half hour booking is enough time to learn more about our strategies. Yes. So I really do recommend that you book that one-on-one so we can dive a little bit deeper. And then we can always schedule follow-ups. So if we don't get to everything, we're definitely able to continue the conversation beyond that for sure. And so yeah, I saw there's a lot of great engagement happening in the chat. Lori asked, we have a pop-up donation form for Giving Tuesday on our homepage. Do the ads see those, and does that impact anything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you have a pop-up that's set up to pop up when a new user visits your homepage, then yeah, that should work. It kind of depends on your settings with the platform that you're using for pop-ups. Um, some platforms would have the capability to really target people who are coming from specific platforms. So if that's the case, that can definitely work and is a really good strategy. Some platforms aren't as advanced, so it might be a little bit not it might not be as consistent in who it shows the pop-up to, but that's kind of a little bit more in the back end settings of your pop-up. But yeah, if someone is seeing that, then that can serve kind of almost as a landing page, so that can definitely work.
Jody asked, is lots of questions coming in all at once. This is great. Jody asked, is the supporter list for Google Ads our email or donor or contact list, or is this something else?
Yeah, the supporter list could be really anything. It's just the list of contacts that you have. And I do recommend, since it has to be at least 1,000 people and ideally at least 4,000, kind of you might want to combine all of those lists. So if you do have a separate email versus donor versus volunteer list, you're probably wanting to combine all of those to just make the biggest list possible. Um, yeah, if all of those lists are individually at least 1,000 to 4,000 people, then you can be even more specific in your strategy and target people who are previous donors versus just email subscribers. But for the most part, I imagine most nonprofits would be kind of combining that all into one list. So Google doesn't really they don't specify anything beyond that. It's really just a spreadsheet. So it's all kind of the same to Google.
Cool. And I actually think this question was from a previous session, but I also think it relates and you can definitely answer it. So Kathleen asked, for the call to action, part of what I've struggled with is identifying what their funds are going to. Does it mean we have to designate funds to that if we, put that in an ad?
Oh, okay. So the question is
Like
being
about
really
like,
specific about where the money is going when you donate and in
mm-hmm,
the ad copy.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that you want to, I guess, be truthful about. So if it's in your ad copy that, funds go to a specific area of your cause, you probably would want to make sure that's the case. I've still seen, some of our clients are pretty transparent with saying, 80 cents of every dollar spent goes to programs. So I think transparency is ultimately the key with donors. And even if it's not, 100% of that money is going directly to the cause, is maybe helping out with operational costs, I think that's still something that can work well in ads. At least you're giving as much information as you can to the user. If you're concerned about the specifics of that, maybe not putting that directly in the ad copy, but I think just overall identifying, what the cause and the mission that you support, I think there's no harm in putting that within the ad copy.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else? Oh, Jody asks, do we have to upload a list, or if we don't, will Google just target audiences based on individual search history?
Mm. Yeah, you don't have to upload a list. It's definitely not required. Google doesn't necessarily go off of search history. So it is, again, a little bit different when we're talking about display in YouTube versus search ads. So I'm just going to speak to the search ads portion here. With search ads, your ads are triggered every time someone searches for something that matches keywords that you have in your account. And so actually really once someone searches for something that matches the keywords, then your ad goes into a back-end auction with other advertisers. So then Google kind of decides who's going to be shown on the search engine results page. So then from there your ad can show. So yeah, the list, again, it's a little bit different with search ads. It's not necessarily a critical strategy because again, someone still has to make that search regardless whether they're not in the list or whether they are. But it can just help, reach people, especially in a paid account where you don't want to spend real money on really cold leads, like people just searching for best nonprofits. That's pretty general, So if you're willing to spend your money on that, you're probably going to get fewer and far between donations off of that type of keyword. But if you're layering that with audience targeting of someone who's either visited your website or is part of your supporter list, then they're going to be way more likely to actually click on your ad and donate because they're familiar with your nonprofit. Maybe they donated 6 months ago and they kind of just honestly forgot. And now they're searching for the end of the year, they're searching for Giving Tuesday, and they might see your ad and say, oh, yeah, I donated to them 6 months ago. I want to donate to them again. So that's where that strategy can come in handy with search ads. It's definitely more critical in displaying YouTube where you're pushing out your message to audiences and you have to be very specific about the audiences you're reaching.